the pathways to success, and along that way, being able to avoid the distractions created with personal decisions that cause them to fall short of their goal. And there's a lot of them out there. That's why I'm a big believer that when we get kids beyond junior high, that we need to start helping them understand the two tracks that they can be on. Actually, there's three. One of them's not so good. But going forward, there's a track toward college, and for a long time, that was the only track that we said was a pathway to success. And we made a terrible mistake by doing that. But there's another track out there called career and technical education that could have caused a young man or a young woman who was not so predisposed to going on to college, but wanted to learn a skill or a trade and would have done just fine if they'd have gone into that form of life at 18 or 19 and end up with a $30 or $40 an hour job, which would be a lot better than a lot of the master's degree people who are coming out of college are getting in some of their fields. We've got to do a better job of preparing our kids to break the cycle of dependency on their federal government. And if there's a magic potion for that, we ought to find it, bottle it, and everybody ought to start drinking.
Starts at home.
So, and I agree with that. It does start at home. Yes, sir.
Before I ask my question, I just have a couple of observations. Number one, if you wanted to change Social Security, you would pass Graham Cassidy, because that would drop the life expectancy back down to 60 to 65, number one. Number two, if you wanted to help out also, you would eliminate Medicare Advantage, because 18,000, like this gentleman back here, if he doesn't use his health care, his insurance company is still going to get 18 grand from the government. That's crazy. So, number three, with this lady here, you are using DACA as a chip. There's no question about that. So now, let me get into my personal stuff. If it wasn't for the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, I wouldn't have a clue as to how you, Westerman, Crawford, and can't remember the other guy, how you vote. And so I've been paying attention, and my issue is, well, you and I could spend a couple of hours debating a lot of stuff with you, and I know neither one of us has that amount of time. But I wrote down a couple of things on how you voted.
Okay.
And I'm hoping you can address that. You voted to block an attempt to have the Ways and Means Committee use their legal authority to obtain Donald Trump's tax returns from 2006 to 2015, when the greater majority of his citizens want to see exactly what's going on. You voted on a bill that will reduce civil service protections and workers' collective bargaining rights at the Department of Veterans Affairs, including those of medical professionals. Let me put my glasses on. You also, getting back to the veterans, you also voted on a bill that would make it easier for veterans with mental health issues to buy a gun. This at a time when veteran suicides are at an all-time high. And in addition to that, you voted yes to have all mental patients, people with mental health issues, have access to guns. You voted yes on killing the Clean Water Rule, and then voted no to requiring the mining companies to clean up their mess when they pollute the streams and everything going downstream. And this is just a spit in the ocean as to your votes. So I want to know how all of those votes are to the benefit of not only the 3rd District, and Arkansas, and to the country.
Okay, keep your list out, because I may have forgotten some of what you mentioned. Let's go to the Second Amendment first. Let me tell you what I'm unwilling to do. I'm unwilling to give the federal government the authority to take away someone's rights without due process. Period. I mean, when you start chipping away at the Second Amendment of the United States of America, what protects all the rest of the Bill of Rights? Where does freedom begin and end? And quite frankly, on the gun votes, while I have a real, I think our society has an issue with mentally deranged people having access to buying guns, that is a problem that is on its face would be of concern to somebody. But to turn around and just say to the federal government, we're going to give you the opportunity to create a registry that denies somebody their constitutional right, the Bill of Rights, Second Amendment, to purchase a gun, and we're going to make them prove that we should give back that right. So where else should we do that? Should we do that with search and seizure? Should we do that with speedy trial? Should we do that with freedom of the press or assembly? Where else do we need to take away somebody's rights for whatever reason we want to craft and say, now, citizen, now that we've taken away your right, it's up to you to prove that you should have that right back.
What about the rights of everybody in this room?
We shouldn't do that.
What about
And
the rights of everybody in this
question.
room?
And I promise you, on that subject, and you can go to any constitutional right out there, I'm going to vote the same way every time, because I think the Constitution is the greatest single document in the history of human beings, aside from perhaps the Holy Bible.
Absolutely.
Okay? And I am not afraid to start. The question is, when you start chipping away at the old Constitution, where does it end? So I'm proud of my votes on matters of the Second Amendment. And I'm proud of my votes on the constitutional protections to individuals. Because the last thing you want is a tyrannical government taking the laws that we create and using them to their advantage to be able to deny you your freedom. And I'm not going to go there. Now, you had some other things on that list. Clean water rule. Man, are you from around here?
Yeah, I am.
Really?
We all live downstream.
I was telling you, anybody that thinks that we ought to give the Environmental Protection Agency the authority to take certain actions based on what they deem to be hazardous, to include matters of waters of the U.S., which is strictly, navigable waters, the ditch on your farm, if they so choose, terribly abusive overreach of the federal government. And I'm going to do everything I can to rein those people in.
Along those lines, I live in Bull Shoals, and one of the big things around that helps our area is the White River. So fortunately, we don't have a lot of mining in Marion County, at least in Bull Shoals. But if there was, and they blew the top off of Bull Mountain and polluted the White River, you would be perfectly fine with that.
No, I wouldn't be perfectly fine with it.
Well,
There are
who's going
permitting processes-
to clean up?
there-
Wait a minute,
there-
excuse me.
There are permitting
Excuse me,
processes
sir.
already out there that
Who's going
protect
to
us.
clean up the mess? Who's going to pay
Okay.
to clean up the mess?
Well, look, you and I are probably not going to solve this issue because...
No, but I
Just from
want your
question-
opinion. I want your
just from your
validation for voting the way you did.
Okay. I will just say this. I am going to do everything I can to rein in the ability of the federal government to take away freedoms of United States citizens. We have plenty of regulations, we have plenty of rules, and they are all designed to protect us from ourselves. I don't think we need to be giving them more power to do
Well,
that.
then you voted the same way on the Trans-Canada Pipeline.
I should-
That if Canada, if that thing blows, and it's going to, that the citizens, the taxpayers are going to have to pay for that mess.
Look, there are so many pipelines that we have in this country that are running crisscross, north and south, east and west, fueling the economy of this country. And to be able to just carte blanche say the Trans-Canada Pipeline to bring oil sand.
I'm using that as an example,
Well,
because you voted yes to not having Canada pay for it and the taxpayers to pay for it.
Because I do believe that energy is a fundamental external input to the economy.
I'd like
of
to
this
find
country.
out, is everybody here
No, I know
willing to
that.
pay
Look,
for their
I
mess?
totally
Nope.
get.
Yeah.
I totally get.
I believe they blew up some mountains when they built the dam over there.
A lot of them.
And
A lot of it.
I totally
in Marion
get
County.
that you're more of a clean energy kind of guy. I mean, I can kind of read between the lines here. And I want to get to clean energy here, but I'm not willing to jack gasoline prices for the cars that a Clay Maxey dealership might sell to $5 and $6 a gallon. I think that would be very hurtful to our economy.
Oh, please.
And I think a lot of
That's the dirtiest oil that is.
But I know you would like to have $7 and $8 a gallon gas.
That's not
You
true.
would like to do that.
That's not true.
But the point I'm making
Maybe
is
some
that,
people will believe that, but that's.
as I said in my remarks just a minute ago, I'm about devolving as much as we can out of the federal government back to the states. I am for protecting our freedoms. I am for a robust national defense. I am for policies that cause people to make better personal decisions about their life so that they quit taking as much from the federal government and maybe produce a little bit back so that they can honor the sacrifices made for the freedoms that we all enjoy so that we don't bankrupt ourselves in the course of doing it. So those are the things I stand for, and I just think that that's my finger on the pulse of the discerning third district voter, which I understand is probably not the same pulse that you have. But then I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. All right, now I'm going to have to leave here in just a minute. You're a reporter, so I'm not calling on you. Who
It's a
else?
simple one.
All right,
It'll
give
be
it to
fake
me.
news. All right.
Give it to me.
At the town hall up in Harrison, there were calls for the Medicare for everyone. You asked them, how you gonna pay for it? And they really didn't have any good solid notion. Senator Sanders said just this last week here that if the premiums that we pay, if that money was actually paid in taxes as opposed to paying premiums, then that could fund a Medicare for everyone proposal. Now that taking into consideration that medicine right now in a group insurance plan is already basically socialized medication or socialized medicine, because I pay the same amount as someone who I go to the doctor twice a year. I pay the same amount as the person who goes 4 times or 8 times a year, and I pay for my prescriptions, and they may have 14 or 50. Does that sound like it would be reasonable?
I'm not a Medicare for all guy. I'm not for single payer health care. I think if you get single payer, first of all, it's a big country. So the comparisons that we might make to other countries is a bit skewed by the fact that we're 320 million people. I don't think that, and I've never done the math on the Sanders math. His math doesn't work for me too well. He wants to give away everything. Free college, free health care, free everything. And there's no end to the amount of money that a Bernie Sanders wants to take. I think Margaret Thatcher probably summed it up better than I could ever sum it up when she says the problem with positions like Bernie Sanders, who's a socialist, the problem with socialism is that pretty soon you run out of other people's money. And at the end of the day, I just think that part of our genius as a society is a capitalist economic basis where we educate and allow the ideas and the ingenuity of our people and the work ethic of our people trump all others, and that we reward great behavior and outstanding accomplishment, and that at some point in time there's some consequence for people that make very poor decisions. And that's what a capitalist society is all about. My buddy John Runyon, who played 13 seasons in the National Football League for the Eagles of Philadelphia, said to me one day, you know, Steve, the best form of capitalism in the whole world is the National Football League. Because if you don't play at the very top of your game on every down, you ain't going to have a job. And I'm going to tell you, this is a great country. It's an exceptional country. But we are falling into the trap of becoming dependent on our government for everything we do. And this has to stop. I love you all. It's an honor and a privilege to represent you. And agree or disagree, we're going to be friends. And I've got to get to Harrison, so thank you very much for coming today. God bless you. Appreciate it.